This Jock's 94.5 podcast is brought to you by Millennium Satellite and Video. Log on to msvnow.com. TV excellence everywhere. That's Millennium. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning starts now.
Welcome in, McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. It is Wednesday, May 21st, live on Jocks 94.5. Watch us live on YouTube. Listen, jocksfm.com. Tell your home smart speaker to enable the Jock skill. A lot of ways to listen. Glad you're with us. We have more lists to get to today. Bruce Feldman is going to join us at 9 o'clock to discuss the top 25 players of the 2000s. Top of the list is going to be heated for a lot of folks.
Oh, boy.
Chris Burke will talk SEC baseball tournament at 7:20. Some shifts in the SEC baseball tournament schedule because of inclement weather last night that was potentially going to come through. I'm not sure how bad it was at Hoover. We didn't get much rain at my house. But it did look like it was going to come through for a while.
Right.
So you kind of have to go ahead and take those precautions. Go ahead and get set. Game 4 was postponed yesterday, and that will be played this morning, which will bump Auburn's first game back to Thursday morning. So that'll be the new schedule, as yesterday Alabama takes out Mizzou 4-1. Oklahoma takes out Kentucky 5-1. Florida smashes South Carolina 11-3. 5-year-old became a Florida fan last night.
Oh, boy. For the time being.
Just for that game. Correct. Yeah. Once Florida got up, he was a Florida fan.
Alabama
gets Tennessee at 1 today. Oklahoma gets the 5 seed Georgia today at 4:30. And then Florida will get the 7 seed Ole Miss at 8 tonight, which moves Mississippi State, Texas A&M to 9:30 this morning. The winner of that game will play Auburn at 11 a.m. tomorrow morning. So we get going again at 9:30 today. Weather's already affected the SEC baseball tournament, and doesn't feel like it's going to be too disruptive because I think they've allowed for this and kind of looked at this. And now with single elimination, I don't think it's as big of a deal as it has been in the past.
No.
But, hey, Bama advances yesterday. That's good news for potentially hosting this upcoming college baseball tournament.
And need probably at least one more win to feel good about hosting a regional. I think pretty good shape at the moment, but another win could potentially secure that. A win against Tennessee, one more win in addition to that, I feel like would all but lock things up. Yesterday was a good game. Went back and watched it actually last night with Vince. It was fun. Obviously pretty manageable opponent. No one's getting beyond that, but the single elimination makes things kind of interesting. I do think it's going to have an overall impact on the gate, an overall impact on the experience, but I do think that it's kind of a cool way of handling their business. They've played a lot of games, like one game single elimination, 15 games overall is, I think, kind of exciting. I don't know if you feel the same way.
No, like I always like. We love Game 7. We love do or die. We love overtime. I mean, that's part of sports that I think we all get into and that we all like, that we all enjoy. So you like that pressure. You like the fact that win or go home. It's kind of like last night. I'm watching T-Wolves Thunder and blowout. Thunder, especially late, just looked great. And you're thinking, okay, well, you go back tomorrow night, T-Wolves could even it up, and here we go. Hit the reset button. We start over again. It's not near as bad. But I think we love that. We love that pressure. We love the fact that – and now, on the flip side of that, yeah, you can have a bad game. You can have a bad outing. Your bats can go cold. You don't love the fact that you may go home because of that. But I think that extra pressure and the extra attention to it because of what it is becomes a little bit better. So I think it's going to be a fun tournament to watch. We'll have Chris Burke on 7:20 to discuss it and get us set up for today, which, again, is going to begin at 9:30. We have a lot to get to in college football. There's news all over the place. You had a chance recently to sit down with Kalen DeBoer on your podcast, and you talked about a couple of different things, what Ryan Grubb's going to bring, the quarterback situation. What were some of your biggest takeaways from your visit with Kalen?
Well, it's from a while ago. So I probably, I think it was released Monday. But it's done a couple weeks back. And I think the biggest takeaway is his comfort level in year 2 at Alabama. I think that's the biggest key, is the comfort level, how much he understands the roster, the connection he has to the roster. That's big. I do think the addition of Ryan Grubb has made him more comfortable. I think last year, not that he didn't trust Nick Sheridan. I think he loves Nick Sheridan. I think he thinks the world of Nick Sheridan. But there is a way with Ryan Grubb in which they can complete each other's sentences. They've been together for 25 years.
Yep.
I mean, that is just, they're best friends. So having your best friend, your confidant, the guy that's been through everything with you at every level of the sport, I think is pretty remarkable. They only had, 1 or 2 years when they weren't together.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that him now having Ryan Grubb as that sounding board and a guy to kind of bounce things off of. He has total trust in the rest of the team as well and the rest of the coaching staff. But I think Kalen last year was forced to play the good cop and the bad cop from time to time. This year, if he's in a bad mood or if he's ripping somebody, Grubb can be the happy guy, the good cop. If Grubb's ripping somebody, Kalen can be and I think that dynamic is extremely beneficial. So I think it's big that he was adding just another guy to the staff, and I just think Kalen's more comfortable as a result of Grubb being there.
This is what Kalen DeBoer told you about bringing Ryan Grubb in as his new OC.
There's a trust. There's a trust you have, and that's really what, I think you asked what he brings and how we move forward. There's a trust that I have with him, but there's also some continuity that he has with other coaches on our staff, with Nick Sheridan. And I know that's been helpful for Ryan to speed up his process of getting to know our personnel. The why, why did we do this? Why did we do that a year ago when you're reviewing the film? And then also Jamarcus Shepard, it's just, that's an integral kind of threesome right there that have been together for a few years and, speak the same language as well.
First off, I don't think Jamarcus Shepard gets enough credit.
Yeah, right.
We love Ryan Grubb, and I love Ryan Grubb. Seeing Kalen and Grubb together, talking to them both in the same room is a lot of fun. It's really cool. I think bringing in a former offensive line coach to be your offensive coordinator, as we talked last year, there were times when that identity was not ground and pound. It was not, let's see if we can push these people and lean on them. It would become that for a series or a half or a quarter,
right,
or 2 series, but it was never, we're going into this game to do this, and there's nothing you can do about it. It became it over time in certain games. I think Grubb will have a better understanding of, we can do this. We can be this. Right. We're going to get away with this, and that's how we're going to go win the game. Just because that's his mentality. That's what it's always been, and I think Kalen's okay with that. Kalen likes that.
I think so,
I think it'll show up a little bit more often. But
I think I'm having a hard time, though, because I feel like the excitement that everybody has surrounding Ryan Grubb is almost serving as a sticking point to Nick Sheridan and or to Jamarcus Shepard, like we talked about. It almost is like, well, those guys can't coach. That is the farthest thing from the truth. Those guys, I think, did a really good job with the circumstances they were dealt last year. Nick Sheridan had to call plays with a bunch of real average wide receivers and one really big-time dude, and a guy that had never been the featured guy before. Those receivers that all left, it's not like they went to Oregon, Texas, and Georgia. Like, a lot of those guys ended up in places where they're going to be good players, but they're at Baylor and they're at Kentucky, and they're fine players, but they're not freaks of nature.
Well, let's be honest. Like, one of them is, but not as a receiver. Like Kendrick Law was, but not catching the football. He was a freak of nature blocking people, which is great. It's a nice to have.
It's amazing.
It's not the end-all, be-all need to have to make you very different at that position. It's great for screens. It's great situationally, but it's not the one thing that you look for on an every down, every series basis to say, this makes us a lot different than you at wide receiver, and you're not going to be able to deal with us. I love watching Kendrick Law play football. I need guys that can go catch the football first.
You can be a great football player and not a great receiver.
He doesn't change what the defense does. Is that fair?
I'm not sitting there as a defensive coordinator burning chalk on figuring out how to slow down Kendrick Law. That's no disrespect. And by the way, Kobe Prentice is a good player, but he's at Baylor now. I mean, it's no disrespect. But if these guys were as good as people think they were, they'd be at Texas, Oregon, and Georgia, or Ohio State. But they're not. Caleb Downs, when he left, where'd he go? Ohio State. Who wanted him? Everybody. Kobe Prentice at Baylor. Kendrick Law's at Kentucky. Good players, solid players, but I do think the offensive staff had one arm tied behind their back last year because they just didn't have the personnel that I think people think they had if you look exclusively at the recruiting rankings. So I think that the addition of Grubb, people have just acted, and I just want to make sure the air is clear on this. Nick Sheridan and Jamarcus Shepard did a good job with very little last year. Their quarterback was inconsistent emotionally and physically. Their quarterback wanted to, do everything himself. Their offensive line was inconsistent, especially the right side, and frankly, at times, the left side as well. Their receivers were substandard, not subpar, substandard, compared to what Alabama's had in the past, and I think their running backs didn't get enough touches. So I think the offense staff did a good job, but it does help to have an extra set of eyes, an extra set of experienced eyes that know how it's supposed to look, that has NFL experience, that will create additional credibility in the room.
Also, per Adam Schefter yesterday, speaking to Jalen Milroe, signed a 4-year, $6.26 million contract with the Seattle Seahawks. So that is done. But back to Jamarcus Shepard, wide receiver coaches, I think.
Hardest job. I think it is. O-line's close. But O-line,
listen where I was going to go
kind of
first.
polices itself a little better than the receiver room.
Not a little. Not a little. A lot. I think, but would you agree that O-line coaches, for the most part, are more carbon copies of one another from the East Coast to the West Coast? For the most part.
They all walk with a limp, and they all chew Red Man Golden Blend, and they all hit me on the hop.
Wear sweat jackets to practice to try to lose weight because they don't want to work out. Yeah.
Yes, the stereotypical if you're asking the question, are offensive line coaches easily stereotyped? The answer is yes.
Yeah, and mostly miserable. Yes. Now, I think receiver coaches are the most unique / different across the board than any other set of coaches. Because we talked about this, your running back coach or your tight end coach usually is your best recruiter. Because let's just be honest, those positions, number one, you're dealing with fewer numbers, and it requires a little bit less from probably a knowledge or technique standpoint.
They also are going to coach special teams. One of those two guys coaches special teams, the other guy's going to be your recruiting coordinator.
And now we've moved into where usually, and I've heard head coaches have told me this, the tight ends coach is kind of your offensive coordinator in waiting, which now you'll get tight end coach, pass game coordinator, tight end coach, run game coordinator, whatever it is. But receiver coaches can be like the happy-go-lucky fun guy, hang out with everybody.
Right.
They can be the in-your-face. They can be the, hey, relationship, coddle you guy, great recruiter guy.
Yeah.
There's some that are very technically driven, but very few are no nonsense, don't put up with anything, will get in your face at all times, expect more physically, mentally, emotionally, like this guy does. And I think it needs to be appreciated a little bit more because most people don't see him operate. I have seen him operate.
Yeah, he's the real deal.
And he gets after you, and I appreciate that. And that's a position that needs it.
Yep.
Let's be real. At most schools, most places, most teams in general, high school, middle school, college, NFL, that's a room that needs more people to get after him. Now, how that goes over depends on the guys.
Yes.
But he's not going to care about it. He's going to try to get after his guys and try to get more out of them. And I think that it deserves a little bit more appreciation because people just don't really talk about him that way.
I think he's the best receiver coach that I've been around as far as just the details. Now, I haven't been around Brian Hartline, and I haven't been around a couple of these other guys that are known, highly regarded wide receiver coaches. I think Shepard's is about as good as I've seen. I think he's that good. Just really appreciate how he approaches it. That is a diva room. It's a bunch of Ferraris. Let's keep things in mind. I think that's the best part about the offensive line room versus the receiver room. In the receiver room, you have Ferrari, Maserati, and Porsche. In the offensive line, you have Ferrari, F-350, Chevy Silverado, Tesla.
Tesla? Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Give me the O-line room Ferrari that ever was.
Oh, I can think of a few.
Tell me.
Willie Colon.
Not Ferrari, no. Like at least like
I'm not talking body types. I'm talking personality types.
there are more leaning sports car personalities in that room now than there have been.
100%. I
still wouldn't go there.
I'm not talking physical attributes.
What's the SUV that all the Georgia guys drive? The Hellcat, whatever it's, Durango, something.
Police cruiser?
Jeez.
No, there's one. The Dodge has an SUV that goes like 180 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Let's at least go with that.
No.
You can't give them a car they can't fit in.
Yeah, you can. 100%. No, and I do think that when you have a bunch of personalities,
you have your 1985 GMC,
100%.
Doesn't have power windows.
Trailblazer. Yeah, you have a Chevy Trailblazer. There's a couple of those. You have a Bronco with no doors. And then you have the one guy that kind of wishes he was skinny. That guy drives
he's a sports car?
That guy drives the sports car for sure.
Okay.
Stick shift though. So there's personalities, but I think the personalities in the wide receiver room are the most challenging to engage with. These guys are all narcissistic, not all, but most. They have this walk on water internal mentality, which, by the way, is 100% necessary to play the position. They believe they're open on every play. They could be double covered, and 95% of the time they're like, you could have fit it in there.
Just like DBs, when you literally show them film of them getting beat, and they can come up with 57 excuses as to why it happened, and still tell you they're the best there ever was.
100%. It never fails.
You have to think that way.
Richard Sherman never played a man coverage snap in his career and had Earl Thomas patrolling over the top, but he claimed he was the best corner in the game and believed it. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. But I think that room is very hard to engage with, because if you spend too much time with one guy, the other guy's feelings get hurt. And then you're too hard on this guy, and the other guys are like, oh, why is he hard on him? Yeah, coach is a jerk. Like it's a tough position group to coach.
It is. All right, we'll come back to that conversation, and in some parts of it, there was one thing that you just said right there that did not have to do with receivers or offensive linemen. That
Should
I want to bring up
we go through your offensive line room and go through what type of car they were?
We can. And we did have a sports car. Yes,
definitely
Marcus
did.
Curry, 100%.
He's a sports car. What kind?
He wore bow ties to Tiger Walk.
Kappa?
I'd have to send a text out on that, I think.
A safe bet. If he's wearing bow ties, safe bet.
But he was 335 pounds.
Doesn't matter.
I was like, D. Curry, you can't. He wore like vests under his
Doesn't matter.
coat.
Well, the vest was just an extra layer to keep the stomach in.
But I'm just saying, like nobody else over 200 was doing that.
I don't know a lot of guys wearing three-piece suits that are under 200.
Oh, we had a few. Maybe not three-piece, but we had some Zoot suits.
We definitely did.
To call them out in the media.
We definitely did. We had one guy that wore a Louis Vuitton suit head to toe, and it was like electric blue, and he wore it on 3 road games.
Drake Kirkpatrick?
No. I'm like, dude, is that real Louis? He goes, no, but don't tell anybody. I was like, oh, you don't say. You mean Louis doesn't make an electric blue fabric to make a suit out of? His car was also Louis.
Hell yeah.
It had a Louis Vuitton paint job. Also, they don't make car wraps. Louis doesn't.
You sure? I've seen a few of them out there.
I'm gonna be honest with you.
I've seen a couple boxers who have.
It was probably the coolest car.
Lamborghinis.
It was the coolest car in the lot. He probably had 26s and Louis Vuitton paint job. Now there were holes.
A Charger?
No.
This is pre-Charger.
This car had to have been from 1987. But the paint job was fire and the rims were amazing.
It's the only thing that can make it better.
It was awesome. No, it wasn't. But it was a great ride.
John, how bad were Fieros? Y'all aren't even part of this conversation.
I rode in a Geo Metro, so as bad as the Fiero was, it could have been worse.
My best friend, one of my 2 best friends in high school, his name was Chris Benton. He lived in the apartments next to mine, and we both played football, both played baseball, so we rode together a lot of different places. He was in high school. If I was 6'2", 6'3", between 255, 270
over.
He was 6'3", 10, 15 pounds lighter, 10 pounds, 5 pounds lighter. We were both big dudes. His mom had a Geo Metro and carried us to many events. Mm-hmm. Both.
Love that.
You just wonder how it made it. Like, how did that thing not just literally stick to the ground?
Doesn't matter.
I think the only thing worse than the Fiero was the tracker.
Wait, what?
Geo Tracker.
Oh, a Geo
Tracker.
Yeah, I know that one.
SUV version.
I've seen a
And then
Fiero
the Suzuki
before.
Samurai came around, which was the Panama City version of the Geo Tracker.
That one Samurai could not cut. No.
I just remember when I was a kid, and I didn't know it at the time because you didn't realize what people were trying to do as they got older. When you were 8, 9, 10, whatever, the people rolling around in those Fieros, they thought they were Tom Selleck.
Yeah,
100%. They thought they were Magnum PI rolling through Birmingham in a Fiero.
Yeah.
Tell me what the
that
problem
thing
is.
probably cost what, $17,000?
They were probably more like Higgins, but yes.
Yeah. There's a Fiero factory in North Alabama.
All these references are over my head.
That's why we just left you out of the conversation.
I just want to know what you're talking about.
The Fiero was it's basically the Miata of the 80s.
Mazda Miata?
Correct.
Yeah.
And you had an
Pontiac Fiero.
You had an offensive lineman that drove this?
No, I was saying your buddy that had the Louis Vuitton wrap, if that would have been a Fiero, would have been the only thing that made it better.
Gotcha.
Just Google Pontiac Fiero and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Oh, gotcha.
It's bad.
I'm in.
It's really bad.
You got my attention.
Okay. And the weather should have your attention, just like yesterday. In, out, up, down. The weather's going to be here. It's not going to be here. It's going to rain for a minute, then it doesn't. That's why you need the reliability of a Train. Voted America's most trusted HVAC brand. And right now you can receive up to a 10-year warranty on parts and labor on select Train home comfort systems. Find out more at Train.com. It's hard to stop a Train. We'll be back with Chris Burke to talk SEC baseball tournament next on Jocks 94.5.
Go inside Jocks 94.5 on Jocks TV. Morning Jocks, Mac and Cube, three-man front, video simulcasts are presented by Bill Smith Buick GMC and Game Day Men's Health. Watch on the Jocks mobile app and YouTube by searching Jocks 94.5 TV.
All right, welcome back here. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning as we continue our discussion of Fieros during the break. I'm trying to think of what the best car and the worst car was in our parking lot. I think Heath Evans might have had the best car. He had like a brand new Tahoe, and this is the old Tahoe body style.
Yeah.
So it looked like the GMC or Chevrolet pickup with like a all glass camper on the back.
Really? I think I can visualize that.
This is the best Tahoe body style.
All glass.
It looked like the pickup, but then just a glass.
No, I got
camper on the back.
I gotcha.
It was a good looking Tahoe.
I've never seen
black with like wheels, and he had the big tires. I
need to get back to like 90s car look. I feel like the square bodies are coming back, like 90s.
A little bit. But and then the worst would be Hart McGarry. He had a
minivan.
No. It was the worst and maybe kind of the best at the same time.
Yeah.
What was the old Dodge Giant SUV?
The Dodge Durango.
No, before that. This is the full size.
Gosh.
I can't remember what they called it. It was basically like their Tahoe, but it was a Dodge. And he had a...
Ooh, the 2025 Durango.
He had like
sweet.
A metal... First off, his front bumper was like steel and came out like 1.5 feet from the thing. And then it had... You know that metal that's like X all the way down? It's like you use it as like a gate or a fence.
Yeah.
It's not a fence though, but the front of his like brush guard was made of that. It had that. I'll put it this way. There were many a night that he would ram dumpsters in parking lots and they would slide like 20 or 30 yards down the pavement.
That sounds
we got a lot of enjoyment out of that.
Sounds like a fun activity.
It's a lot more fun than you imagine.
We're revisiting this topic of conversation.
We'll come back to this. Chris Burke joining us on the Higginbotham hotline. Do you remember what the old Dodge SUV was, the big one, the full-size one, Chris?
Like the Durango?
No, it was like 80s or 90s. It was before the Durango.
Was it a Ram Charger?
May have. That sounds possibly right. Here it is right here. I don't know if they're going to give us the name of it, though.
You lost me.
I lost you there. Sorry about that one. All right.
Sorry. But hello. Good morning.
Good
hey there.
Rolling right into that conversation. Ram Charger. Yeah, that was it. I just found a photograph of it. You got it.
We're back.
Nice call, man.
Okay, so you the tournament shifted just a little bit already, but we do know some of the matchups we're going to get today. Alabama advances over Missouri. Missouri, worst team in the league. But now they get Tennessee. Can you kind of preview that matchup for us a little bit today and what Alabama fans should expect?
I think it's going to be a fascinating one. You know, these two teams played a very tightly contested series on the front end way back what feels like years ago. You know, I think it's a little bit maybe of a elimination game for hosting. You know, Bama's got a hosting resume in some aspects. And oddly enough, Tennessee does too. Now Tennessee's, you know, lost 5 series in a row to finish the season, which is almost hard to verbalize because it's just so out of character with where this team has been and what it feels like they're capable of. But it's true. But if you zoom out and take away some of the context of the specifics of their series and the trends and those kinds of things, they both have what would normally be hosting resume. I mean, they're both a couple games over 500 in the league, and they both have a top 15 RPI. So I think it's an interesting game. I think those two and Ole Miss and Florida to a certain degree, which is kind of cool because they all play each other today, could still be on the backside of the hosting conversation. So I think the bigger picture is that. You know, and then if you're talking about stars, I mean, we're going to open the broadcast today with LeBron and Andrew Fisher. Andrew Fisher is probably the most under the radar best hitter in the league this year. He leads the league in, if you're talking about all games, not just conference games, but all games, he leads the league in homers, walks, OBP, OPS, and he's reached base safely in every single game of the season, which is pretty impressive. And then for my money, I mean, we were talking about it last night at dinner. Justin LeBron, Alabama's shortstop, for me, is right up there in the Dansby Swanson, Alex Bregman talent at that position that I've seen since I've been doing this, which is since 2012. So, you know, that's how talented Justin LeBron is. Now, you'd have to do pretty well to have the career that those two guys have had. But if you're just looking at them as college shortstops, like Justin LeBron is as talented as any shortstop we've had in this league in a long, long time. So I think that in and of itself is always a reason to watch an Alabama game.
Yeah, he's amazing. My son actually drew a picture of him last night. He was so inspired. And it's actually pretty good. He drew the pinstripes and everything, which for a 6-year-old, I felt good about it. The pinstripes were moderately straight. Berkey, I don't want any bias coming out of the broadcast from you today. All right. So let's keep it professional. Yeah. I know that you will. Obviously joking aside, but everybody always seems to tell people that when they're calling their alma mater's games. I'm not sure why.
You've never heard that.
No, I've never heard. I heard it from Cole, during the Iron Bowl. I mean, it's unbelievable. A guy in the profession, but, I think it's going to be great. So far, the single elimination, I think, has been kind of fun. I know we're early in it. I do feel like the gate yesterday was somewhat impacted, but maybe that has to do with the fact that games are starting at 9:30 local. But how so far, just one day in, do you feel about single elimination?
Maybe I can hop back on Friday and give you a better feel for it. I'm not sure. I do think that over the last few years, this event has become a little less about your team winning and a little more about just the event itself. And so I do feel like the biggest and most intense SEC baseball fans just to come. They would certainly prefer their team to stay all week, but they really just want to be here because it is such a great event. And in addition to that, I feel like the team, you know, the last couple weeks of the season, that every year the narrative is, we're going to save our pitching and we're going to rest and we're going to, mail it in at the tournament. And then everybody gets here and it's such a great event and they do such a good job of making this thing feel special, the league, that I feel like the coaches and the players always underestimate how much they eventually want to stay once they're here. And so, I think Tennessee's going to throw 3 of their best bullets today against Alabama. And I wouldn't be surprised if Alabama has a chance to win the game late. They're going to probably run Osmer back out there again. And I think this deal is you could easily look at it outside of being here and call it something less than what it is. But, I think we see this every year at the basketball tournament. It's easy to say, oh, people's resumes are they're already in the bag and, don't get hurt, blah, 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 blah. And then every year teams get there and they get here and there's an intensity about it that's hard to place unless you're actually at the event. And so I think like all years, it'll really pick up steam as the week goes on and teams are going to try to win a trophy and put their name, in the record book. Cause that's, at the end of the day, this is a championship. They are handing out a trophy. And I think all these coaching staffs and players are wired to try to win those things.
Chris Burke of the SEC Network joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. I mentioned a little bit earlier, we're talking SEC baseball tournament, which continues today at 9:30 a.m., that the rain had moved some things around, weather has affected things. It feels like that was sort of built in, so it's not going to be a massive shift. However, Auburn goes a day later. Mississippi State A&M go a day later. Is there a team of what happened last night with the postponement that greatly benefited or greatly worked against with how they will play, when they will play, who they will play?
Well, first of all, let me start out by saying there was no weather last night. I don't know what happened there, bro, but I've been doing this tournament a very long time, and the amount of weather that we've played through and played around has been insane. And last night was one of the most gorgeous evenings I've ever experienced in Hoover. And for some reason there wasn't baseball. I'll try to move on. I was having a hard time last night figuring that one out. Anyway, I would just say right out of the gate, Texas A&M playing this morning, they were going to start Weston Moss, and we got a note this morning that they're going to start Ryan Prager instead. So look no further than to the first game today to see how that's impacting people and how they're using their pitching. Now, Weston Moss has been really good for Texas A&M, and Ryan Prager's been kind of up and down, if we're being honest. Now, he's their number one starter and their veteran guy, so I'm sure they love that they're sending him out there. But, you never know if that actually ends up helping them or if that'll be a bad thing. You just never know. So we'll see. But, yeah, I do think, Cole, that the net effect of them not playing last night, meaning the league, is everybody has a little more, or the teams that got pushed back today, Auburn, as you mentioned, they get a little more flexibility with how they're going to handle their pitching because it's another day's rest.
So is it kind of for every team and the coaches that you've talked to, are they going into it with kind of an all hands on deck mentality each and every day and, hey, let's just get through today and survive until tomorrow? How is it kind of working out, and what has kind of universally been the decisions being made by coaches to see how they handle their staff?
Well, it's a great question. I think it's a little bit of both. I do think one of the storylines here every year that maybe I feel like we talk a lot about on TV, but maybe the fans don't fully grasp is this is the most heavily scouted event of the year for college baseball. And so I think a lot of these coaches prioritize getting their draft-eligible pitchers on the mound, and they want to win the games, and they play to win the games. But, Tony Vitello, and again, two things can be true. They can be the pitchers that make most sense for Tony Vitello to pitch today, and it can also be great opportunities for all three of them to put their best foot forward a few months before a couple weeks, really. I guess it's 6 weeks or so before the draft. So I think Tennessee's going to throw Marcus Phillips, A.J. Russell, and Nate Snead, which are all junior pitchers who could go in the top, 50 to 100 picks. So I do think we've seen in the past some coaches, and in a single elimination tournament, obviously there's a little more urgency to do so. They do want to get some of their biggest prospects opportunities to get out there on that mound. And I think we're getting Riley Quick from Alabama, even though I haven't seen that for sure. And that's another name, if you're a Bama fan listening to the show, like Riley Quick has been a mover here the last month or so. He's got some draft buzz. So there's going to be some arm talent on the bump today in that game for sure.
Absolutely. Hewitt-Trussville native. Obviously, Brother Pierce played football at Alabama as well. Another Quick family, proud of him. So we appreciate you hopping on today, giving us a little preview of what's going to come today, the next few days of the SEC baseball tournament. I will say this. My wife asked me about the weather, I think, at about 6 o'clock last night. It was while we were at dinner. And I looked at the radar, and I said, it looks like about 10:05. We're going to get hit pretty hard, but shouldn't last very long. Before we went to bed, she said, have you checked the weather again and just looked? And there was literally not a drop of rain coming near our home. I don't know what happened, how that happened, what went wrong, what changed, but it did show that it was going to hit, and then a couple hours later showed nothing was going to be there. So I have no explanation for that, but as confused as you were.
Well, the format, I think this year made them feel like they don't need to hurry because it's not 4 games every day for the first 3 or 4 days. They felt like they had space, and they didn't want to get a team out there and have to call them off. So I think they felt like they had space, but it's nobody's fault. It clearly looked like it was going to rain, but the fact that they called it that early was unusual. I'll say that.
Absolutely. All right. Appreciate you hopping on, Chris. Enjoy the rest of the tournament, man. Always good stuff.
All right. Always fun, guys. Later.
All right. That's Chris Burke of the SEC Network talking SEC baseball on the Higginbotham hotline. Alabama, Tennessee today, Greg. It's a big one.
Big one. It should be fun, too. And knowing that there's something on the line with the possibility of hosting a regional is massive. So look forward to it. Should be a fun and an exciting game. And obviously, rivalry, the third Saturday in October of baseball.
Some of you may be looking forward to feeling
better. Do you agree with
that? Yes. If you need to call it that, go for it. Also, the Alabama's number 1 rival. So have at it.
Third Saturday in October of baseball.
Yeah, that too. Just go ahead and say it's the number 1 rival and all the other things.
They are our number 1 rival for sure.
Great. Your CBD store now has products to help you with arthritis, anxiety, better sleep, better focus, weight loss, the Trim by SunMed on the shelves at Your CBD store, the largest brick-and-mortar CBD retailer in the world, first company to have USDA-certified organic oil supplements, gut health, skin care for you or your pet. A lot of different ways that Your CBD store can help not only you, but those in your home. They want to help your daily routine. Check out one of their 3 locations. Highway 280 by Bailey Brothers, 150 by the Cajun Cleaver, Trussell just off 459. Your CBD store, where good health hits home. There was something that Greg McElroy said when we were discussing vehicles in the first segment of the show. So I want to ask the question, could you right now, if your life depended on it, do something that he brought up? We'll tell you what it is, and we'll find out if we could next on Mac and Cube in the morning.
The capital of the sports talk nation. This is Jocks 94.5 and JocksFM.com. Birmingham.
All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Greg asked an interesting question why did we come back to this, by the way?
It was
We're talking 80s and 90s?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
We'll go with that.
Greg, have you ever heard Nightmare on My Street?
No.
Unfortunate.
Man, the rap game back then was so advanced.
Well, this one knew who he was attempting to appeal to, so I wouldn't necessarily reference this rap game. This was the I want to be successful in pop culture game. And some of it was good, some of it wasn't. This one, not great. But I'll tell you what, it hit. I bet he got a large, significant check and then subsequent fairly large checks afterwards.
Was this Fresh Prince?
Yes.
Remake?
This is also the reason we got the show, Fresh Prince. Because he got that check and forgot to pay Uncle Sam. So they came calling. So he needed money.
We got to think of something. You said when we were talking about Fieros and Miatas and other vehicles from the 80s, 90s, 2000s, you brought this up. And I would like for Damien to come sit in here for a moment as well because I want to ask him this question. And you said out loud something about driving a stick shift.
Yes.
And I found that interesting because I've not heard anybody reference that in quite some time. Now, I will say this. Growing up, my mother had a Volkswagen Jetta and a Mazda 626 for the majority of my youth. Both stick shifts, by the way.
Both of them?
I learned how to drive on a stick shift, not necessarily with her in the car. but there are many nights that vehicle may have been driven, and the knowledge of driving a stick shift had to have been obtained somehow, some way. And it was.
It's a feel thing.
Doesn't mean it went smooth. May have been some peeling out late nights around Homewood, Alabama.
On purpose?
No. Specifically at red lights on hills. So I'll ask you this.
Uphill is tough.
We're on a steep hill. We're on a red light. You're in a stick shift. Your life depends on it. Not stalling out and not peeling out the tires to get through the red light once it turns green. Could you do it?
How steep's the hill?
Steep.
So basically,
I'm thinking the one we had some problems with was if you head up over the mountain, Green Springs, and go up mountain the other way, those red lights there were a problem.
I can see that. I think I could do it. I have not driven stick shift.
There would be no before you got going?
I have not driven a stick shift since my honeymoon, and don't intend on starting anytime recently. So it's been a while. I'm probably a little rusty, so I'm going to go ahead and say I would probably have a few stalls.
And it depends on the vehicle, too, because some, like the clutch, had to be all the way down. Some the clutch was easier. Yes.
You got to, but I'm having never driven this vehicle.
Yeah, you have to feel, because it was a feeling out process.
Yeah, having never driven this vehicle, getting in it and having to make it up that road as my first attempt. Like, you're parking it right there, and I have to get in and get it out of park and into first gear. I don't like my chances.
Damien?
No.
No, just not.
Nope.
Will you even know how to start the car?
Yeah, 1,000%.
What do you do to start the car?
Like my dad, he had an old work truck and it was a stick, and I pushed that clutch down.
Okay, so you do have an inkling. Okay.
Yeah. No, he tried to teach me. It didn't go well.
Not
John?
great.
No.
I'm a definite no.
Have you ever driven a stick?
Nope.
Man, it's different.
You're the one I thought would be able to maybe handle this.
No, we grew up in Hoover. We didn't need them.
Do they even make stick shifts anymore?
I don't think so. Well, let me take that back. I bet
they do. I'm sure they do.
I know they have the paddles on the the whatever.
Well, we all had that friend that's like, I'll never not drive a stick shift.
Yep.
Like, I had a buddy that was like that.
You might not be able to find one.
I'm about to say, no, I'll never not have one. Like, I'm a stick shift man. I like to be in charge.
I almost feel like we need to bring them back because people are on their phone so much in cars.
Yeah.
You had a stick shift, you just couldn't be on your phone.
That's actually not a bad call. What's funny is my buddy he prided himself on being a stick shift guy. And it was loyal to the game.
It's an odd game to
It's a strange one. And he drove a Jeep, like a traditional two-door Jeep.
I want to control my torque.
It was a Wrangler. And, no, it was a Cherokee or whatever. Like whatever the one is, you take the top off and the doors off. The doors were always off. Wrangler. All right. Anyways, he drove that. I swear to you, it had an I-4 engine. That thing did not go more than 62 miles an hour. And here's the problem. Speed limit in Texas is 70. And in some places 75. And we're going like 12 below the speed limit on the highway. And like people honking at us. Like, dude. And Patrick's like putting his hand through the ceiling, like Jeep wave. Like everybody in a Jeep waves to each other. Like, nobody cares, dude.
How'd you do that with all the ducks flying? Like, how were you able to drive?
I don't know. But those were the days.
All right, there's a couple more coming in on stick shifts via Twitter. We'll get to those on the other side next. Mac and Cube in the morning.
Go inside Jocks 94.5 on Jocks TV. Morning Jocks, Mac and Cube, three-man front, video simulcasts are presented by Bill Smith Buick GMC and Game Day Men's Health. Watch on the Jocks mobile app and YouTube by searching Jocks 94.5 TV.
All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Chris Carlisle tweets in 21 Mustang GT at Mac and Cube. They still make them. I found an article. Also, Maryland tweeting in, my brother got his first real income job. What's a fake income job?
Right.
He bought a manual Porsche, and I learned quickly to drive it. Yes, I could complete that move. I'm kind of with Greg, though. Even if you know how to do it, having never been in said vehicle could greatly change it.
I think
some
that's
of those
the
clutches
problem.
have to go all the way to the floor. Some just barely needed to be halfway. And, yeah, that would be a little bit of an issue.
It's a feel thing. It's not going to, right out of the gate, I'm telling you, up a hill, you park the car at the red light, you get in, you are now driving, and you have to start for the first time ever up the hill, I don't like my chances.
Trouble. Car and Driver, May 7th, 2024. Every new car you can still buy with a manual transmission. Acura Integra, Aston Martin Velour, which, by the way, is an incredible-looking vehicle. BMW M2, M3, M4, Z4, Cadillac CT4V Blackwing, CT5V Blackwing, Chevy Camaro, Ford Mustang, Honda Civic, Hyundai Elantra, Kia Forte, Lotus Emira, Mazda 3. So basically the cast of the Fast and the Furious vehicle.
Yeah.
Good news, guys. The Mazda MX-5 Miata, you can still get it in a stick shift.
I felt good about that.
The Cooper Mini hardtop convertible. So not only Fast and Furious, but the movie in which Mark Wahlberg stole the gold in
Italian
Subway.
job.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or French Connection, yeah.
Nissan Versa. What? Nissan Z, Porsche 718, Porsche 911, Subaru BRZ, Subaru WRX. So the entire Subaru alphabet, basically. Toyota GR86, Toyota GR Corolla, Toyota GR Supra, Volkswagen Golf.
What?
And Jetta. There you go. That's your list of cars you can still buy with a manual transmission, not transition. That was a poor transition to our next hour of radio. When we come back on the other side, we will talk a little bit more college football. 9 o'clock hour going to be saved for Bruce Feldman's top 25 players of the 2000s. But when we come back, what should the real expectation for the Auburn Tigers be this upcoming season? There's some confusion around it and some questions of it. Therefore, we will discuss it, and you can be a part of it right after this on Jocks 94.5.
This is McElroy and Cubelic in the morning.